Welcome, everyone. This is the River Management Roundtable for June 2026. My name is Risa Shimoda, the Executive Director of the River Management Society, and we're here to talk about a really interesting new development and trend on rivers in several parts of the country. Precision Rapids, Whitewater Park features, benefits, and trade-offs. And we'll be hearing from a couple of folks who are experts in an evolving area of expertise. River management roundtables are held every month on usually the first Tuesday, first or second Tuesday, as we are this month. And they're held about a variety of topics, but they're either like operational, like what's making things happen, or managed on rivers, or about the communities that use them, manage them, um, play on them, and so forth. Our organization consists of those who work on rivers, many different types of professional areas of expertise. But the tie that binds is water that's flowing, that's fresh, and whose management is part of what we do. And we'll ask you to be polite and keep yourself muted unless you have a question. And we are gonna get going. To welcome Paul Primus, the wave technician at the Boise Whitewater Park, and kind of his counterpart, Ryan Richard, who also does the same work in Bend, Oregon.
Thank you so much, Risa. It's really awesome to be here. Thanks to everyone for coming and checking this out. I have been operating the Boise Whitewater Park since about 2015, I believe. And I known Ryan since even longer before that. Excuse me, this air compressor here has a little bit of a blow off from time to time. I'm I'm on site, if you will. Maybe something crazy will happen and we'll just turn into that, just start wave shaping. But um, yeah, so I've known Ryan for a long time. Back in 2013, I believe, after phase one of the Whitewater Park opened, Ryan and I were both avid whitewater enthusiasts, and just getting into surfing on a river, having kind of never seen it before. So we kind of had a discussion about, wow, they just made something that you can completely reshape a river with, and let's go for it. There might be an opening for that position. So we both went for that position here in Boise, and it went to the much better mind, of course. And that would be Ryan. And so he operated the park here from 2013 to 2015, I believe. And I basically volunteered every day that he worked, trying to, understand everything going on. And then shortly after, Bend came into play, and they basically poached him as a wave technician, offered him more money, and that gave me the opportunity to slide in and take his. So I'm grateful for that. That's kind of that's basically around 2014, 2015 when all of that began. And in that time that Ryan first had access to the control booth, which is really all we were looking for, we realized there was a lot more opportunity than just kind of whitewater kayak features. And we had been river surfing ourselves. So really putting focus onto what the system that was put into place could create, maybe outside of what, it was originally designed for. Since then, now river surfing has kind of massively shifted as kind of the leading industry of a whitewater park. People are really looking for everything, but they're really focused on a surf wave now, based on what we hear from other communities that are looking to get into it. They all seem to really want a surf wave. So just a massive dual benefit there. But yeah, we can go ahead and go to the first slide. Or actually, should I say, Ryan, would you like to do your introduction after my presentation or now?
Yeah, I can do it really quick now, if that works for you. Just get
Pen
it out of the way. Paul covered a great. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Paul really nailed it with how it kind of got started. Both of our careers in this job started with a passion for whitewater, and specifically, like he said, river surfing was the coolest thing we thought we could do with whitewater environments. And like he said, I got kind of my original beginnings with learning at the Boise Whitewater Park. It's a pretty special park, and Paul will go into that. That specifically phase one, with kind of the freedom that it allowed with shaping waves, and it really gave us the opportunity to create some things that weren't exactly what the park was designed for, but turned out to be very popular in the communities. And yeah, I've been here now at Bend for about gosh, going on 11 years now, and have really gotten to see firsthand what a whitewater park can do for a community from the very initial construction phases to now it being a cultural icon of this area, just like Paul's is in Boise. So yeah, very happy to be here, and thank you, Risa, for having us. I'll let Paul get back on his.
Okay, but first, can you see a screen share? Okay. Are you looking at the Albertson Family Whitewater Park?
I'm
Are you
still
talking
on
to me?
the first slide.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, hold on a second. I'm going to stop sharing a second.
I saw one comment that said they didn't see anything.
All right. Yeah, we got to go back to this. How about now?
There it is. I've got it.
Okay. Okay, sorry guys, we missed a couple of the early slides, but this is the meat of it, so this is what's important. Okay, you're on, Paul.
All right. Lawnmower drives by right as we get started. That's the background noise that you might hear. Um, Here we are. This is basically the J.A. and Catherine Albertson Family Foundation Boise Whitewater Park. Is real quick and easy to say. Is the reason we have this is the Albertsons Foundation. If you go back to that slide real quick, Risa, I just wanted to point out um, that phase one cost about 4 million to implement, which we'll talk about first. It was designed by McLaughlin Whitewater Design. That is Rick McLaughlin, who is, in my opinion, a little bit ahead of his time as far as engineering a lot of these parks go, and just open channel hydraulics in general. You know, it's kind of surprising what I've learned throughout this position is kind of how little we know about open channel hydraulics and making something like a surf wave in a river. And it is surprisingly complicated, a lot more than we ever initially thought. And seemingly, we actually, as a society, know more about going to space than we do making surf waves on a river. But that's where we come in and really get to be on the front end of this thing, and that's just a massive privilege. I'm really grateful for. The flow range of phase one is about 250 to 4,000 CFS. The flow range of phase two, which came in 2019, is about 700 to 2,000. So a smaller flow range, yet a much bigger wave, and an incredibly impressive wave, which we will get to. Phase two cost about 11 million, but that includes three drop structures, including the adjustable one, which is just the top one, as well as a huge landscape, kind of project as well. So there was a lot more to it than just phase one, which is only one drop structure alone. Phase two was designed by S2O Design initially, and we will get more into all of those details, but I just kind of wanted to give that overview. Rick McLaughlin, who designed phase one, really kind of set the standard for what adjustability can do. I still think this phase one of this park is significantly ahead of its time. I'll go into that a little bit further. And I think it was actually just a training ground fortunately for Ryan and I both to learn how to shape a river wave. the sensitivity that's involved. I mean, we can be down to the 100th of a foot on one gate, and that pour over can completely change the composition of a wave. And that's out of 9 gates across, depending on what the drop structure is. So, anyways, tons of adjustability. Any mode of adjustability has a lot of things you can do in changing the water. And when you get something like 9 gates going across, you run into almost infinite possibilities that you can really kind of change and manipulate things. So you will hear a much pro adjustability kind of bias from me throughout this. For that reason, I have seen um, static waves be implemented, the flow changes, the debris changes, this, that, or the other. The wave crashes and becomes extremely dangerous. This has happened at multiple attempts of a whitewater park, and in that scenario, they will have to wait until that winter to go and fix whatever that issue may be. With adjustability, Ryan or I can fix whatever that complication may be in less than a second sometimes. So I'll just kind of lead with that. That's where we'll kind of focus on a lot is the benefits through these adjustable parks. But I definitely don't want to take away from the static structures, which are much cheaper to get done, and some of them have had incredible success as well. So, but yeah, we can go to the next slide. So this kind of just shows. I was really happy to find this picture in the dry of what we call flashboards, and they are basically just operated by pneumatics, just a big air bladder. So we're just basically pumping air in and out of these bladders to hold the gate at very specific levels. And we do have the equipment to do that with our PLCs, our programmable logic controllers that control all of this. So it's pretty incredible to have that kind of tunability to be able to move these things into micro amounts. You can kind of see the picture with the water flowing over paints a good image of kind of how they work. Yeah, so those are the fundamental parts of what we do here. Phase one of the Whitewater Park also has 2 hydraulic wave shapers, they are called. And in wave shaper 2, which I will get to shortly, that is an independent hydraulic wave shaper. Wave shaper 3 is a hydraulic wave shaper attached to a pneumatic crest gate, giving a lot more opportunity for basically all sorts of range of motion. I'll get into it further when we get there. We can go to the next slide. And what I really want to focus on is the winds, right? So the 3 main ones that we're on here is irrigation, safety, and recreation. The first 2, depending on who you're talking to, can be interchangeable as far as priorities go, but recreation will always be the third. This park was designed to improve and deliver water to the Thurman Mill Canal, which really operates anywhere from 15 to 30 CFS throughout the year. So nothing huge, but it's very important to have the right headwater amount in order to deliver that water. So until we know that we are set, that the irrigation canal is set, that is getting the correct quantity of water requested, we can't really do anything. So once that's complete, then we can start looking into making waves. And simultaneously, we can address safety throughout that, because there are dangerous ways to back up a irrigation head pool, and there are safe ways to do it. And these systems we operate can create both. So yeah, those are the 3 we'll be discussing. One of these images here is just the old head gate that initially operated with phase 1 in Boise. Now that has been upgraded to the image on the left there. You can see it on the outside. There's a solar panel and everything. It's called a Rubicon head gate, and it gives us an extremely accurate information. We can just put our set points in of what we want it to flow. From there, our challenge still to the day, and even next week, is going to be the biggest challenge, keeping that headwater high enough while making a good recreational feature, in that our canal has been demanding more and more water as our population grows. So Um, we have been able to meet this no problem. Working with the ditch riders has been a massive success, and that's really kind of a win-win scenario. Prior to what we have at phase one now was a very dangerous low head dam. If you go to the next slide, Risa, um, it there is the image that has the backhoe in it up there, and uh, uh, of the old Thurman mill weir, in which they would go out. I still work with the ditch rider who was doing this prior to this being built 12 years ago. Maybe it's been more, and he would go out and put those 2x6s or whatever into place in dangerous flows, tied to a rope. He keeps telling me, well, it's a good thing I had that rope. And Ryan and I are kind of like, no, you should have never had that, because that is extremely dangerous. So old school to new school, if you will. Um, and then just a couple of other images there. One is the one in the middle there is of the phase two Farmers Union Canal grate, in which we've been getting in and cleaning that off and making sure that that water flows good as well. So basically, irrigation is top priority at both phases of this park. It's two different canals, and it will always be that way. But we have had no problem meeting those demands, as well as making incredible recreational features. So some of the irrigation challenges are manual operation, debris accumulation, structural degradation, and inflexible and unreliable flow control. We can take care of all of those with this adjustable system. I won't go too far into the details there. I think a lot of people kind of already know what we're talking about on this. And then, of course, the biggest win is the removal of the low head dam. If you could go to the next slide, Risa. Um, Public safety. So we've addressed irrigation. We have improved that significantly. Now we're on to safety. The hazard reduction and safe access to the river. We were able to put, access ramps for anybody into the river next adjacent to these systems. But mainly just the low head dam removal. You can see the dangerous water there. That's actually a fairly friendly low head dam image. And I'm sure with this audience, I don't need to explain what that is, but we were able to completely eliminate that threat. And the year prior to, it may have been 2 years prior to opening of phase one, but it was very shortly, and I believe it expedited getting the project complete. Was unfortunately, it was a drowning in the low head dam at the site of the Boise Whitewater Park before it was built. So being able to remove that is a massive win and just enhance the safety to the public, because these things are everywhere. I've got, what is it, 50 deaths per year of low head. I do think that's an underestimate. A lot of these do not get reported. But I don't think I need to tell all you guys these things are super sketchy and they got to go. So let's go to the next slide. And so here we are, the third, of course, recreation. And we'll go into this quite a bit, because it's just been an incredible thing that the city of Boise, that I can speak for, has seen. I mean, just a massive shift in just people when they're looking into a place to move or not. A lot of people have been coastal their whole lives, or surfers, or whatever it may be. We have surfing in Boise, and it's really, really fun. Looks a little bit different. A lot of people used to the ocean are going to say, oh, well, that's kind of, river waves generally are a little bit smaller, but they keep going. They can be very fast. And they give you a much more ocean-like feel than you would think just by looking at them from the shore. Um, and that's a big part of it too. I've been really lucky. So all the passion comes from the sport. I just want to surf something really good, or play boat in something really good. And so, we put maximum attention. If a wave can be made, even though there's a lot of challenges, it must be made, right? And I kind of repeat that, and that's why we've been able to keep these things going, because there's a lot of scenarios where something simple enough to fix, whether you have to get in the water to find what that is, or to get in the water and just simply feel the retention of the feature that you are implementing. It's a night and day difference. The surf community here in Boise will tell you they really like it when I show up to surf because the wave seems to magically get better. Um, so here at phase one, we have two wave shapers, as I was talking about, the hydraulics underneath. So wave shaper two, you see the photo under there, the surfer on it. Directly under his feet is where the hydraulic wave shaper is. What the water is flowing over above him, you see that creates that drop, is three 10-foot flashboards that are at very specific heights. As a matter of fact, the center one is significantly higher than the side ones, and that gives the wave a fully perpendicular shape to the flow of the river. If you didn't have that opportunity with the three different gates, it would be very hard to make a good river surf wave because what they would make naturally if it were one 30-foot gate instead would be more of an A-frame shape or a V shape that can be very flushy for kayakers and for surfers to be able to stay in, not enough retention. Um, Wave Shaper 3, another example that just kind of works as different flows and works as a secondary option for us. However, it was designed to be the primary wave. We have just found that Wave Shaper 2 creates a little bit wider, easier access, and a little bit more fun of features in there. And the huge bonus to it as well is that the public can really see what is going on when the surfers are on the wave much better in Wave Shaper 2 because it's not between some big hydraulic housing walls. Um, so yeah, that's phase one, and we'll continue on. Let's go to the next slide. And here is where I really like to show the potential of what phase one is. And I don't know of another whitewater park that has this opportunity. And again, that the entire flow range, I'll repeat, of phase one is 250 CFS. We have a small winter wave that we narrow that 30-foot channel with literal plywood, and we're able to keep a wave going all winter, all the way up to 4,000 CFS. And the main reason we stop at 4,000 is the head and tail water gets too close and it's differential, and you kind of get flat waves at that point. But it's also the same flow that the fire department tells everyone to stay out of the river. So it would be kind of a contradiction if I invited everyone into the river at that flow point, but it seems to line up pretty well. So this is an overhead view on the left picture there of two waves in simultaneously, both Wave Shaper 2 and 3. This should be right about 3,000 CFS. And the wave on the left is a paddle in pop-up wave. The wave on the right, you can kind of shimmy in from the side and go straight to your feet with some creative techniques. But what the main difference in this is, there is that initial 30-foot channel that we do most of our operations to, up to about 2,000 CFS. And then when we get to this 2,500 and above alpha wave flow, we are actually using 6 of the 7 flashboards at very specific heights just to make that wave on the left. And then on the right, Shaper 3 is its own thing. But to have 6 different flashboards that actually contribute to this one wave, it really, again, it wasn't really designed to be able to do this. However, there was so much foresight in designing this, giving us as much adjustability as possible, is what allowed us to discover this truly awesome wave that it only comes in the spring when we have higher flows. But the people who know about it and have figured out how to paddle in and pop up on a river, which can be very difficult, it's very iconic. I have some footage of it. If you go to the next slide, Lisa, might show it a little bit better, unless it's lagging a little bit, which it may be doing. It is on my screen. Is it paused on you, on yours? Oh, there it's going.
There it goes.
So yeah, I guess the footage isn't great. It's a little choppy there, but what it initially showed was paddling in on river left there, and then you have to get over on your stomach to the middle of the wave and then pop up just as you would in the ocean. Whereas most of these other river waves, we have all found ways to go straight to our feet and skip the paddling process. So this one you kind of have to earn it, but it is very worth it. Um, and again, we've got a second wave on the side. This footage doesn't have a surfer in the second wave simultaneously, but I believe we've put out a reel with that footage at this flow before. Um, so that just what I really want to hit home with the amazing opportunity of phase one of the Boise Whitewater Park is that flow range, 250 to 4,000 CFS. I do not know of another whitewater park that can operate surf waves in that level of flow. And then the 250 CFS wave allowed us to surf from October all the way back to April. So we have operational waves at least probably 340 days a year. There's a few times where irrigation comes into play. We might not have enough water. We have to shut it down for a week or two, but that's about it. Um, so, anyways, on to phase two, and phase two opened in 2019. The amount of adjustability that we now have, especially after kind of 6 years of tuning it in and kind of making it work. I mean, it threw an incredible wave right away, but we had stability issues with it. And that was a challenge that S2O design had in the beginning. At this point now, that has been completely mitigated, and the wave is running as we speak. And it's actually a pretty high flow shift of 300 CFS as this presentation is happening. I have my cameras over here, and this wave is very resilient to those flow changes, more than I ever thought it could be. So we're really in good shape now. It's incredibly powerful. It almost feels like it feels very manufactured as far as river waves go, but it's so good we just we don't really care. Like it stands. I did a measurement this morning at 1,500 CFS. We can get the wave to 5.5 feet tall, which is actually incredible in a river. And the water speed of this feature is so fast that we have people body surfing it. That is surfing it with no board, no boogie board, just simply on their stomachs, and it has enough retention and speed to hold them. Let's check out the next slide and see what we have in that. So there you can see some people boogie boarding on it. You've got surfers in line, and it's actually, as of late, become an incredible kayak feature too. Kind of always has been, but it's pretty intimidating to get your boat up on those walls and drop into it. But now we have a lot more boaters doing it. And yeah, and then on the right side there, that shows just the bypass gates on the other side of the river when it's too high for the surf wave to operate, which would be 2,500 and above. And even those were able to make a really cool feature, as you can kind of see right there. It's kind of funky, but we had a couple guys that really enjoy it. I think we called it Johnny's Wave. You can even surf on the right, on what would be surfer's right, river left side of it there. Let's go to the next slide. This shows kind of what I was talking about with the kayaking. So you can see this wave is incredible. Again, it seems to look and feel a little bit manufactured, but it performs very dynamically like you get in a river. That is one of my favorite parts of river surfing is the dynamics. One side will crash for a second. You can choose to either be bummed about that crashed portion of the wave, or you can utilize it and, incorporate it into your surfing. And that type of situation is also super beneficial for kayakers. These are two very talented boaters in the water in this photo. And this was kind of the beginning of them realizing how much potential this had for kayaking as well as surfing. So as recently we had some international competitors out here. One of them was from Boise, but the rest were from elsewhere, and they all were actually calling for world championships out here. They thought it was that good, so that was really exciting to hear, because these guys are definitely professionals. They were hitting all sorts of advanced maneuvers I didn't even know was possible on the wave. So that's very exciting. A wave for everyone. There's no question about that. No matter what your craft is, or even if it's no craft and you just have a wetsuit and you can surf on your stomach. So let's go to the next slide. Oh, that's Tulsa already. So let's go back again. So on phase two, the irrigation district that it serves is Farmers Union Irrigation District, and what that does is basically it gives us another opportunity for a wave. This one has a bigger drop, and we in a canal just adjacent to the wave that was in one of those first photos. We put probably about 250 CFS into a feeder channel that the Farmers Union Canal pulls off of, and they usually take anywhere from about 80 to 150 from that, and then the extra comes back into the Boise River downstream, which is sometimes a little bit of a bummer because we miss out on a little bit of that flow in our wave feature. But this thing is surprisingly um, can make a very powerful wave with less water, down to 700 CFS. We have it a very fast wave on it still, and we really haven't determined what the lowest flow is yet. We kind of have some new components involved, but we're hoping to just expand that range on a regular basis. Every year we discover new things, and we've seemingly been able to expand our range every year at phase one. And as of this year, our our new high for phase two operations is about 2,000 CFS, but prior to that, previous years was about 1,800. So simply discovery, constantly tuning, constantly coming up with different ideas will get results, is what we've learned.
Paul, I'm scurrying you along for time.
Okay, perfect. So, being able to work here in Boise and get all of that opportunity to learn, because again, these are basically kind of like gigantic research flumes, 100% scale research flumes that we get to operate and see how the water works. I was invited down to help with Woka Whitewater Park. I saw Jared on here. That's great to see. I met him down when that was getting going, and now they have an excellent surf wave there. Tulsa River Park, I was down there tuning a bunch on that surf wave. You can see on the bottom right photo there. And basically, the massive benefits are already showing in both these communities. Jared, I believe, talked about Woka a couple sessions ago, and Tulsa is seeing the same thing. Just hugely beneficial, requiring a lot less from an operator than Boise or Bend will. So they are working with automation and all sorts of incredible things now to have less of a demand for an operator, which I think is excellent for the future of these parks. Um, I could go on all day just about Tulsa because it's such a beautiful, incredible place. I could say the same thing about Woka. It's an amazing place to go. But I am rambling at this point, and I want to see what Ryan has to say. So I really appreciate everyone's time. Oh, let's quickly hit this though. The fish passage and restoration habitat. If the three wins wasn't enough, I just wanted to throw some more out there. Fish passage and habitat restoration, urban renewal, economic and business development, community wellness, affordable outdoor recreation access. Um, Idaho Surf Association is an association out here in Boise that really wants to promote these everywhere. They just see the incredible success and fun that everybody is having here. And I highly recommend getting in touch with them if you want to know things about like user data, economic impacts, this, that, and the other. They're currently working on an economic impact study, and amazing information for other communities to get these things going in their communities. While I kind of am more on the operations side of things, I highly recommend. His email is there at Idaho Surf Association, and all sorts of helpful information for getting going, everything, even just to the first feasibility study and things like that. They will have incredible advice. So again, yeah, really appreciate everyone's time. I will let Ryan get after it, and maybe feel free to do questions whenever they're permitted. Yeah.
Okay, Ryan.
All right. So again, my name is Ryan, and I'm basically going to just reiterate some of the things Paul was saying about how these types of parks, while difficult to build, can really offer wins in multiple areas. With Boise, again, we're talking about irrigation control, safety or removal of dangerous low head dams, and then also, of course, recreation. Bend is similar. you can go ahead and go to the next slide if you'd like, Risa. In the sense that they removed an old pond retention dam that you can see here. Not, I guess it's kind of a low head dam, but this dam was more a hazard as far as it just was kind of dilapidated at the time that the park was being considered to be built. And it didn't allow for any fish passage, and it also was a hazard to swimmers. We actually had a couple of deaths there from people not knowing where to go or how to navigate that, and they ended up getting pulled into the structure of it and not being able to get out. But if you can look at that top picture, you can see that retention pool to the left-hand side there. That was obviously originally designed to just store logs for milling operations, but it also created a bunch of habitat in the river. There was some sediment deposition there, and actually tied into now what the Bend Whitewater Park protects kind of as its primary feature. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide there, Risa. Thank you. So in creating that habitat that was actually specific to the Oregon spotted frog, the old dam did that, but then it also became kind of a problem for the Oregon spotted frog. A little bit about that species is it's one of the most susceptible species to water elevation changes. So you can imagine with having this giant static structure there and ever-changing river flows because of dam releases, irrigation takes, and just normal runoff and weather patterns, that beautiful frog habitat that was created was actually not being very habitable for those frogs because of these dynamic changes. So one of the main proponents for and in working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife to put in this park was the adjustability factor that allowed us to moderate those elevations a little bit. So again, the three wins of this park would be really removing that old dangerous dam, adding controls and adjustability, which Paul touched on, to be able to moderate those elevations to like the nearest hundredth of a foot. Again, it's very specific. And then also providing recreation and fish passage, which wasn't there before. So a lot of these slides are pretty detail intense, and I'll just kind of go over them for the main purposes. But again, this was about a $10 to $11 million project. It created 3 channels that we have the ability to distribute water through using those flashboards or pneumatic gates. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Yeah, you can see that we actually have 26 different of these gates created by a company called Obermeyer Hydro, which typically builds these types of things out in remote irrigation districts so that people have the ability to tie into them and adjust without having to actually physically go out to the area and turn a crank. As you can see that we have 4 sequential waves with gates on all of those waves for recreational purposes. All of the features have tailwater elevation control, which is very helpful when creating a wave. It's arguably the most sensitive variable that you can adjust when trying to make a feature do what you want it to do. Huge user groups that this park caters to, from surfing to play boating to whitewater supping. And we also get about 250,000, actually I think it's closer to 300,000 these days, floaters that go through the channel designated for them. Let's go to the next slide, please. Again, this is kind of an overview where you can see on that river left, that would be where the floaters go. And that was also designed as specific to juvenile fish passage. Each of those drops are only about 12 to 16 inches. So they're spread out and it makes fish travel easier. We also see larger fish coming up the center whitewater channel where the four features all are all the time. And you can see that depicted there. And then on the nearest or the at the bottom of the screen, that's what we call the habitat channel, where we direct anywhere from about 50 to 150 CFS in. We keep that area completely off limit to humans, and there's a little bit of spawning activity and some amphibious animals, as well as kingfishers and osprey that hang out in that area. And one thing that's interesting to look at on this picture, this was right after the first attempt at construction was done, and you can see how kind of barren everything was post-construction. Hopefully we can see a contrast with some of the pictures later in this presentation that show how nicely the vegetation returned to this area. But let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Yeah, again, just talking about incorporating these parks in the future. I mean, they are difficult to build. There's no website that you can go to that will print off a blueprint for it. I mean, it's up to these engineers and their minds to look at each site specifically and figure out the best setup that's going to provide the most recreation, the most safety. And they're not easy. They typically take longer than expected to construct. With the Bend Whitewater Park, we had to go back into the water the subsequent 2 years after initial construction to really fine tune it and make it as safe and as high level of recreation as we possibly could. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Here's just a couple pictures of initial construction, driving some sheet pile there in the top left. Some guys working on the gates. All of the construction we did here at this park had to be done in the winter time when the flows were lower. It just simply wouldn't have been possible at summer flows in the Deschutes River. A couple of the groups that were involved, the Bend Paddle Trail Alliance, they were really the forerunners in getting this park built. They were working on planning and conceptual designs for at least a decade beforehand. And then they also contributed over $1 million that they were able to raise towards the park. So we're very appreciative of them. Bend Park and Recreation District helped work with the bond measure that got some additional funding. And then again, U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife for additional help with how to design this for the ecological benefits that the park would provide. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. River Restoration of Carbondale, Jason Carey was the main designer of the Whitewater Channel. OTAC Engineering really worked on the fish ladder / floater passage. And then a couple other people that were involved, Surf Anywhere helped with the surf wave, which we'll talk about here shortly. And Boise Parks and Recreation provided me an experienced wave shaper, which is great. And we're thankful for that. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And I'll just go over a few of these just to show the range of people that were needed to work with as far as permitting and getting this park built. DEQ obviously was a huge one. Lots of requirements on turbidity containment and takes and fills. We had to report to them on a weekly basis, basically during the entire construction phase. Next slide, please. DSL, same thing, a lot of involvement with fish takes and turbidity curtains and use of like equipment in the river that they require everyone to use vegetable oil in all the hydraulics and had very specific requirements on fueling the equipment as in proximity to the water, which it seemed tedious at the time, but I definitely appreciate it because you could get pretty messy pretty easily if these types of requirements weren't in place. Let's go to the next slide. Army Corps was huge. Those Army Corps, along with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, were probably the two main entities that we worked with the most closely. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Pacific Corp Power, that was an existing hydroelectric dam that's actually downstream of the river. And something that was cool with during construction with them was they were actually able to lower their headwater, which was actually our park's tailwater, and it gave us a lot more access at specific times that we needed it to accomplish some of the construction feats. Oregon State Marine Board, they were huge with signage and patrols. Let's go to the next slide. And ODF and W again with the fish ladder. They were very happy with the dynamics of the fish ladder after it was complete. They said it was pretty perfect as far as what they required for fish passage, specifically juvenile. Let's go to the next slide. Then Hamilton Construction were the contractors who built the park. They were they had built bridges and some really technical projects before, but in talking with all of those guys throughout that process, they said they had never built anything like this, and it is quite difficult. It is quite difficult. Private stakeholders, bond measure. Yeah, we can pass through that one. Again, some pictures of construction. That top left picture is actually a crane lowering in one of the Obermeyer gates into where the surf wave is. You can see the level of equipment that was needed to get those out there. We had to do lots of our projects at nighttime because we had to close down the road bridge above the park to be able to use like booms down into the park. So a lot of those started at 9 o'clock. You can see again some at 9 p.m. at night, excuse me. You can see again with the weather, there was many days out there where there was snow and ice, and it required us to go out there and just expose what we were working on to be able to continue working for the day. So quite a big project. As you can see, here's some of the controls and the valves in the control room here. It's kind of about a couple hundred yards away from the river, and it's actually underground, but it just kind of shows the complexity of what goes into getting these very specific air amounts into each of the gates to provide what we need. On the right-hand side, that's the screen, the programmable logic that I control here, and each one of those little gray boxes is one of the gates. And then on that top where you see all those orange bars, again, are the elevations of all the pools within the park and above and below to the nearest hundredth of a foot above sea level. So it's very, very specific. And when it comes to the ecological requirements, those gauges are very important. And it's what I spend probably 75% of my work doing, is getting those elevations exactly where they need to be. Go ahead and go to the next one. One of the interesting things about this park, again, because it was fairly kayak centric in the beginning, and with the Bend Paddle Trail Alliance being fairly kayak centric, the 4 waves in the center were mostly dictated towards those, but there was a promise of having more of a clean faced wave that would be more apt to surfing. But back in 2015, when these pictures were taken and the initial design of the park here, you can see there wasn't, river surfing wasn't what it was today. So much to say even that the engineer who designed it, I don't believe, was aware of even what made a really good shortboard river surfing wave. So this was kind of his first attempt. And you can see on the right-hand picture there's quite a bit of whitewater on that face, which, might have been okay for a kayak, but it wasn't exactly ideal for surfing. So if you go to the next slide, this actually happened after the initial construction. We went back in here with some help of some other surf-oriented folks around the world to talk about some of the characteristics that make a really good surf wave, which is, smooth concrete, stem walls on either side to kind of contain the wave itself. And then, as you can see, we put flashboards under the wave to create kind of a sheet flow. And as you can see, much bigger, cleaner face, which has become a really, really great feature for shortboard surfing. Now we go to the next slide. Some additional hardening. This also took place after the initial construction. We have basalt here, and it wasn't financially feasible to bring in granite, which is arguably the best type of rock to use for these parks. So initially, it was a bunch of really loosely stacked basalt that kind of created all the groins and the channels between the islands between the channels of the park. And we knew right off the bat once we started throwing water through it that it was just not going to be, not only robust enough to handle the dynamics of a wild river, but also created a lot of sieve hazards and entrapment hazards. So one of the big things we did was going back in and injecting a bunch of this high density grout to really turn those into kind of solid structures that would, not only last longer, but also keep people from getting their hands and feet stuck between stacked rocks. Um, so a couple just shots here of some of the features. The surf wave again, it's about a 37-foot wide wave, which is pretty awesome for surfing because it gives you the ability to track across it and make a turn and then come back, which is really fun. It gives it kind of an ocean feel. And then on the right there is one of our other kayak features at a prime flow with a guy throwing a big loop. Um, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And again, just pictures of some kids in the fish ladder on one of the small waves there, enjoying a boogie board. And then on the right there, one of the big competitions that we had for some of our high school teams a couple of years ago. You can see the amount of people on the bank there enjoying a little friendly surf competition day, which we've had several of those over the years. Go ahead and go. Some swiftwater training in this park has become a huge resource for not only our fire department in doing training with, again, with the adjustability, we're able to go out there and train with them and create specific scenarios that they may ask for or want to train on by diverting water and or creating more kind of hazardous situations that they can then run scenarios through. We've also had private swiftwater technicians hold classes there. And these pictures are actually from a couple of the surf clubs that have been created here in the high schools that required mandatory swiftwater training to be a part of. So it's really cool to see it being utilized that way. And more swiftwater training. On the left, you can see the tuber channel, and that's actually not even a busy day. I'd call that like an average to low average day as far as volume of users. We've had, I think our record now is 10,000 floaters in one single day, which is pretty amazing. That's not including surfers or kayakers or whitewater suppers. That's literally people in a tube going down that channel. And the Deschutes River for the float in town is actually all flat water except for this section of the river. So people really look forward to some small manageable rapids and splashes and fun. So it's definitely a highlight of that float trip. Let's go to the next one. More swiftwater training here on the left. And then we've also had a huge influx of schools being interested in the parks. And I mean, it's anywhere from fifth graders all the way up to college classes. And we vary each tour based on what they want to focus on. Some of them want to focus on more of the technical aspects of the job, the hydrology, the pneumatics, things like that. Sometimes we spend tours just talking about ecology and environmental uplift. And it's really cool to see the interest in the community. I get phone calls probably once every couple months, all year round with teachers or professors asking to be able to bring their kids out and check out a little bit more of the park here. Some people up on the pedestrian bridge there. That's also a big draw to this area in the summertime when you have surfers and kayakers out using the park. That bridge will be shoulder to shoulder people just watching and enjoying the recreational aspect from a viewer standpoint. And then on the right there, similar to Paul's Park, we try to provide a wave every single day that we can, even if that's in the middle of the winter. And it's kind of one of those field of dream things quotes. If you have a good wave out there, people don't really care about the temperature, and they will go out and surf it. So let's check. Another picture of the wave, really showing the width and the cleanliness of the face. And we'll go ahead and go next to another one. Wave looks really large there. And another guy. It's just really cool. Bend had quite a big ocean surfing community before the park was built, and it's really been cool to see that community kind of integrate with the more traditional whitewater community here in Bend, because that obviously existed as well. I've watched a lot of kayakers turn in their playboats for custom fiberglass surfboards, which is cool to see. And then again, yeah, just a kind of picture of some floaters, and you can see up there on the bridge, that's a typical summer day with the amount of spectators. And then on the right, just a little sticker from one of our high school surf clubs that's left their mark on the park, which is cool to see. So again, just in conclusion, these parks are difficult to build. They take a lot of resources, they take a lot of time and troubleshooting. But when you look at the things that they offer when they are complete and functioning as expected, is it's just massive. The amount of recreation, the amount of culture that it enhances, the just again the indirect economic impact that it has in a town. I mean, the amount of businesses that now name themselves with something regarding surfing or whitewater in their title. You know, that they built these huge apartments right next to the Whitewater Park called the Eddy. They're always kind of just really incorporating that stuff, which is cool to see. Um, so, and again, with the increase in popularity of these type of wave pool parks, these pumped parks that are great, um, you know, and the difficulty in building these types of whitewater parks, I've worried about the future of these types of parks, but then I remember what they truly bring to a community, and it's really awesome to see firsthand. Really awesome.
Well, thank you both. I'm gonna just do a little bit of sharing about River Management Society if folks are not familiar. We have nearly 300 videos on our YouTube channel from River Management Roundtables and many other programs. We have another River Management Roundtable coming up in a month about dam awareness, law enforcement, and rescue, particularly across jurisdictions when we're talking about two different states or two different agencies. And then in a minute, are going to put just a survey. We'd love to have you give us your opinion on how you think this session was today. And then I'm going to just stop for questions. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, or you could just unmute yourself if you have a question for one of these guys, because they're
I'd love to add
know
on
so much. Yeah.
something real fast, and it's perfect. It was right kind of at the end of Ryan's segment there, and that's kind of why I brought up Tulsa and I'd like and Woka as well. These two parks in Oklahoma, uh, engineers have now kind of really used what we have learned in Boise and Bend to significantly reduce the needs on not just equipment but operators and staff and things like that. I've been really impressed with what I've seen with some automation and things like that, especially just kind of the headlining it would be Woka Whitewater Park, and then Tulsa was short to follow. And I'm I'm seeing really successful waves that take significantly less attention from an operator already. So the future of these is really really promising. And I see most of the headaches that Ryan and I have been involved with, which we are happy to have been involved with because of everything that we've learned, kind of going away. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of clear.
Mm-hmm. When you say go away, can you see a day with no operator? Is that even
I can see a scenario with no operator, and that would be a very consistent flow and
right?
some kind of things like that, or some static features. They've had some really good luck in Salida. They've also had challenges, but you know that it just shows the direction it's heading, and I could definitely see the need being reduced and. It could be eliminated. I mean, if you had a canal that was very specific, a flat line flow, meaning it hardly even ebbs and flows, yeah, I think you could put something in without an operator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you both very, very, very much. We have no questions, and that it means either people were wowed or they're intimidated and overwhelmed, or they're asleep. Probably not the latter. But thank you guys so very much, and appreciate your experience, and look forward to seeing more parks that come out of what you're doing. Jared,
Thank you, Risa.
yeah, Jared, want to throw in any 2 cents here?
So, since hopefully you guys can hear me okay, I'm outside. Uh, Overseeing some of the aspects of local Whitewater Park. Both of these guys were instrumental. I had them on the phone multiple times. I had Paul in person. So, just thank you guys for all the resources that you shared.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And for folks who are watching, we'll post the recording in a couple of days, and so you can see it or share it with others, afterwards.
Okay.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.